So good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I am Brett McSweeney. I am the president of Eleanor's Legacy and the Eleanor Legacy Action Fund. And tonight we are going to learn together all about ranked choice voting. I want to highlight that if you need ASL interpretation language assistance, we are joined this evening by Gloria and Stacy, two ASL interpreters from LC Interpreting Services, a woman-owned business. Also, closed captioning is available and is provided by Disability Rights New York. DRNY tirelessly advocates for equal voting access through their protection and advocacy program. By identifying barriers and providing resources, they work to ensure voters can participate in elections privately and independently, and that they stay informed through civic engagement with their larger communities. At DRNY, they work to enable people to live to their fullest lives and to unlock their highest potential. Click on the CC button on your screen if you need to access the CC availability. And now, let's begin. At Eleanor's Legacy Action Fund, it is important that we begin with a land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that the Eleanor's Legacy Action Fund is situated on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Lenape people. And you are joining us from many places tonight, near and far, and we acknowledge the traditional caretakers of those lands as well. And of course, I acknowledge the 46,680 New Yorkers, our neighbors, who have died so far in the pandemic. If you have lost a family member, a friend, or a loved one, our condolences to you, and may we all be well. Tonight, this event is sponsored by the Eleanor's Legacy Action Fund. Eleanor's Legacy and the Action Fund were founded by Judith Hope in 2001, and we take our inspiration from Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "Democracy is not about words, but action." And we're proud this evening to present this ranked choice voting workshop in partnership with many fantastic organizations, starting with and especially the United Federation of Teachers. If you'd please join me in welcoming Cassie Prue, Assistant to the President of the UFT. Cassie, the floor is yours to welcome us.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cassie Prue. I am Political Director for the United Federation of Teachers. Thanks to our friends and fellow co-hosts, Eleanor's Legacy, Black Women's Political Club, Women of Color for Progress, and Rank the Vote New York City for joining us this evening. Thank you, candidates, for being here, and especially thank you to my UFT family, our Borough Political Action Coordinators, our political team, activists, and retiree chapter members for joining us tonight. This training is not for the faint of heart. Most of us are very much trying to understand the process of ranked choice voting so that we can be ambassadors to our own networks, as well as potential strategies to employ around ranked choice voting to ensure that the candidates we all support for election are successful. My portion of the training. Thank you again very much for coming. And please, please remember, do not vote for one candidate 5 times. Thanks, everybody.
I think that might be the main takeaway, but we'll have to wait for Susan's presentation to be sure of it. But thank you, Cassie, and thank you to all the members of the UFT. Thank you to all the teachers and the support staff for all that you do on behalf of our city. And I hope that those of you who returned to the classroom in person today with students had a successful day. And now, would you please join me in welcoming another co-host of ours this evening from the Black Women's Political Club, Jamila Pringle-Fines. Jamila, the floor is yours to welcome us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brett. So thank you to Eleanor's Legacy Action Fund for putting together this entire conversation. We're excited to be here alongside the United Federation of Teachers and Women of Color for Progress. My name is Jamila Fines, one of the founding members of the New York City Black Women's Political Club, and we are an organization that advocates for issues surrounding Black women from all walks of life. You don't necessarily have to be political to join with us in the fight that we're doing every single day on behalf of our communities. Ensuring that we discuss and educate more with our communities around the idea of ranked choice voting is extremely important, so that we ensure that our communities maximize their voice and their vote. So we're excited for today's conversation, and we welcome you.
Thank you, Jamila. And I do recommend you all check out the Black Women's Political Club. It is a fantastic place, as Jamila said, to build community across the city. Whether you consider yourself a Politico or not, it's a great place to build community. And our final co-hosts for this evening are longtime friends of Eleanor's Legacy. It's Women of Color for Progress, another fantastic community-based organization. And I invite Aaliyah Allen to join us now and to welcome us all.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Aaliyah Allen. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm here from the leadership team of Women of Color for Progress. We're so excited to be able to join such amazing organizations such as UFT, the Black Women's Political Club, and Rank the Vote. This is such an important issue, and one of our pillars here at Women of Color for Progress is making sure that all of our citizens and all of our communities have the ability to leverage their own political agency, whether or not if you're a part of a political club or not, but to be able to go out there and vote and get your vote heard. So we really appreciate being able to be on this with Eleanor's Legacy to make sure that everybody knows how to get out there and vote in these upcoming elections, because they're a really important one.
Thank you, Aaliyah. And these elections will be the most important ones that you'll vote in this June, which brings us to ranked choice voting. Unless you are a lucky resident of certain district of Queens or the Bronx, ranked choice voting will be brand new to all of us starting in the June primaries. And joining us this evening to walk us through how to make ranked choice voting work for all of us and why we're ranked choice voting in New York City this year for the first time, please join me in welcoming Susan Lerner of Common Cause New York and also from Rank the Vote NYC. Susan's going to walk us through a presentation that she has delivered many times over because voter education is going to be the key to having ranked choice voting be a success in New York City. I would ask that everybody use the Q&A function if you have questions during the presentation. I think it'll be about 20 minutes or so, right, Susan, the presentation, and it'll follow by a Q&A period afterwards. Perhaps we'll answer your question during the course of the presentation, but if not, we'll save those few minutes to pose them directly to Susan at the end. And so that Gloria and Stacy, who have joined us as our interpreters now, know this is when I'll be switching off and be turning it over to Susan for your turnover purposes. So Susan, thank you and welcome. I'm going to turn the microphone and the share screen capabilities over to you. And thank you, Susan, in advance.
Well, thank you so much. I am so privileged to be here with these amazing, powerful groups of women. I'm very grateful to all of the co-sponsoring groups and UFT. And really hope that Cassie, at the end of the presentation, you will feel that you can easily explain ranked choice voting and will understand that it's actually a pretty straightforward process. So I'm going to share my screen. And then let's see. Oh dear. Okay. Something here is, don't tell me I'm going to have problems. Privacy, Zoom. Okay. Sorry. This is a different computer.
And Susan.
Yes.
This is the voice of Brett. Not a problem. While you work on that, I'll see if I can pull mine up in case you need it. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Zoom. No. I am having an issue here. I'm not sure why, but let's see if share screen. Yes, I'm good. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Get that out of the way. Get that out of the way. And now we're going to go from here. There. All right. So thank you very much. Again, I'm delighted to be with you. Sorry about the technical slowdown. And we're going to be talking, as Brett has said, about ranked choice voting this evening. And first, I'd like to do a quick recap on the upcoming changes to our elections. How did we get here? You may remember in 2009, we had a costly low turnout runoff election for public advocate and for comptroller. That prompted a debate over how we could avoid costly runoff elections, where you often have even fewer people voting than you do in the original elections. And in 2010, then City Council member Gail Brewer introduces the first ranked choice voting bill, which was an instant runoff bill that would have set up instant runoff for only the citywide races. So in 2010, there was also a charter revision commission, which at that point, given Gail Brewer's suggestions, started the discussion about ranked choice voting and what could be done to replace the runoffs. That charter revision commission felt it wasn't really time, that ranked choice voting needed more maturing in the city. And what followed in the subsequent years were a number of bills introduced in the city council that were ranked choice voting bills that evolved over time to a ranked choice voting bill that would cover all city races. In 2018, you'll recall the mayor set up a charter revision commission, which was charged with looking at the city's elections. It held hearings and it held open sessions around the city. One of the topics that was discussed extensively was ranked choice voting. And at the end, the Charter Revision Commission in 2018 did not put ranked choice voting on the ballot, but it identified ranked choice voting as an issue that it felt the next Charter Revision Commission, because remember, there was another one teed up for 2019, appointed by the council, should seriously explore ranked choice voting. Sorry. And that's exactly what the Charter Revision Commission did in 2019. A series of detailed meetings open to the public, presentations by experts, open hearings in all of the boroughs, thorough discussion about ranked choice voting. And that Charter Revision Commission decided to put ranked choice voting on the ballot. It was on the ballot in November 2019, and it was approved with nearly 75% of the vote. And it set up the situation we're in right now, which is that 2021, New York City is having its first ranked choice voting elections. So why are we here? Why ranked choice voting? In New York City, we have an unusual combination of a very robust campaign finance system and term limits. And that results in a very high percentage of multi-candidate races who, under the current system, risk splitting the vote. And under the current system of voting, city council members in particular are elected with a plurality. All of the city offices are elected with a plurality, but we see it most strongly in the city council races, where the result of so many excellent candidates is that all too frequently a candidate wins with as little as 20% of the vote. That's just not healthy for our democracy. So what's changing? Starting this year, all the way back January 1st, 2021, all local primary and special elections for city council, borough president, public advocate, comptroller, and mayor, that's every single city office, will be ranked choice voting elections. It means that we are not spending over $10 million on runoffs, and the candidates will need to win with at least more than 50% of the vote. And voters will now have the option, it's the voter's choice, to rank up to 5 candidates, including a write-in candidate, if they choose. So voters in Council District 24 were the first in New York City to use ranked choice voting during the past February 2nd special election. And this past February, we had February 23rd, we had Council District 31 special election. And we're going to have 2 more special elections in the Bronx in March. So what was different for voters? When the voters went to the polls, the ballot that they were presented with gave them the option to rank up to 5 of their favorite candidates. And this past Tuesday, there were 9 candidates who were running in the special election in CD 31. So being able to rank really helps voters make sense of those crowded fields. So how do you make the choice? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Your first choice is the candidate that you love. It is the candidate you are passionate about, the candidate you talk to your friends and family about, the candidate you would donate to, the candidate you would volunteer for. And that is straightforward. But how do you make your backup choices? Because that's what the other candidates are. Well, in these crowded fields, what we find is that invariably there are candidates who have similar positions, some who are equally or almost as attractive as your first choice. Ranked choice voting allows you to say, well, if my passionate first choice were not in the race, or for some reason was not the winner, who would I want as my second choice? Who am I also excited about? And that's your second choice. The third and fourth choices are the candidates that you like. It would be all right. You think they do an okay job, perhaps not as exciting and excellent as your first choice, but it wouldn't be a bad thing if they were the candidate. And the fifth choice is a candidate you aren't that enthusiastic about, but it's a candidate that you would prefer over candidates that you think are just not up to the job. And again, it's up to you. If you want to rank one candidate, you can. Your ballot won't be as powerful, but it will count. You can rank 2, 3, 4, up to 5. The choice is yours. Ranked choice voting gives your vote more power. It saves money. I mentioned that the runoff elections, and we have had 2 or 3 in the last decade and a half, they run the taxpayer between $10 and $15 million for very low turnout elections. With ranked choice voting, you don't have to worry about spoilers or split votes. You don't have to settle for the least of bad choices. You get to vote your passion without worrying whether you're being told that that particular candidate has a strong choice of winning or not, because you have your backup choices. It allows for new voices and perspectives, because candidates are encouraged to run when they know that ranked choice voting is in place. And it changes the whole way in which candidates campaign, because the winning candidate is able to build support from a majority of the voters in his or her district. It's the candidate who can build a consensus. And that's what we're looking for with ranked choice voting. We're looking for the candidate who has been able to build a consensus majority. And one of the happy consequences of ranked choice voting is we've seen it in other cities, and actually, as we're seeing it here in New York, is that ranked choice voting discourages negative campaigning. Because if the candidate is talking to a voter and the voter says, you know, I'm really, really excited about your opponent A, instead of saying, oh, well, thank you very much, goodbye, the candidate or the volunteer or campaign worker says, well, that's really great. What do you like about candidate A? Oh, it's their housing policy. Did you realize my housing policy is actually really similar? I respect your choice for candidate A. Will you consider ranking me your second choice? And the candidate that gets out and works and isn't disparaging other candidates, turning off voters, is likely to be the successful candidate. Ranked choice voting is not a new idea. It's used around the world. It's been used for decades in Australia and in Ireland, and it's used in different jurisdictions here in the United States. The state of Maine uses ranked choice voting. Alaska just voted it in this past November. And we have numerous cities, San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Fe, Minneapolis, all of whom use ranked choice voting. And in the 2020 election cycle, we saw states, particularly Democratic states, using ranked choice voting to choose their Democratic Party presidential nominee. And interestingly enough, the state of Utah has been using ranked choice voting. The Republican Party there uses it at the county level. So when we talk about ranked choice voting, we want to just provide a simple explanation. The who, what, where. Starting in 2021, New York City voters will have the option to rank their top 5 candidates in our local primary and special elections for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough president, and city council. If voters still want to vote for just one candidate, they can. But it's important to remember that RCV places more power in the hands of voters, which is where, frankly, from a common cause point of view, we want to see the power. By ranking, voters don't have to worry about wasting their vote, right? If you are a Jill Stein fan in 2016, you were being told that you were wasting your vote, you were hurting Hillary. With ranked choice voting, you could vote for Jill Stein with a clear conscience and then rank Hillary as your number 2. You aren't going to accidentally help elect someone we don't support. That's how Maine ended up with ranked choice voting, because they had a very controversial, very conservative, independent candidate who was elected as governor for 2 entire cycles because the Democrats and the Republicans split the vote, and he went and garnered enough of a plurality to be the governor, even though he was roundly disliked across the state. So you don't have to worry about splitting the vote, which is a concern. Sometimes when you have multiple candidates from a particular community, that the 3 or 4 candidates from that community will split that community's vote, and the community won't have their desired representation in the city council. And of course, as I said before, with our current system, somebody can be elected with less than a majority, and it's not uncommon for us to have the winners of our primary in the Democratic Party be elected with anywhere from 20 to less than 40% of the vote, which means the majority of voters didn't choose that candidate. And ranked choice voting is an antidote to that. So New York City is a big city. We have a lot of voters, and we have the challenge of educating voters to be sure that they know how to use ranked choice voting in June, and that all voters get the benefit of this empowering system. But voter education can't be accomplished by any one entity alone. What we've seen over and over and over again in the cities that have successfully implemented ranked choice voting in the states is that it's a team effort. It's got to be collaborative. The Campaign Finance Board, the Board of Elections, and the City Council are all going to be involved in voter education and outreach this year. There are extensive plans for the city, particularly the Campaign Finance Board, to be putting out material, to be advertising, to be reaching voters. But voter education outreach by advocacy groups, by unions, by trade associations, and community-based organizations are going to be invaluable, because these groups really know their constituents and can tailor the message to reach more deeply into different communities. So with that background, let's talk in a little more detail about how ranked choice voting works. I would like to show a video, short video, this one from Santa Fe. Our animation for New York City is being finished. We expect to have it next week, but sorry, I'm going to have to share the Santa Fe video with you for tonight.
Hi, I'm Olivia Owl. Changes are coming to the way we vote. With the new ranked choice voting, the next time you vote, instead of choosing just one candidate, you can rank them all from your first choice to your last. Here's how it works. Let's say these 5 candidates all run for mayor of Animal Town. This voter ranks Lucinda as her top choice for mayor. She also ranks her second choice, Diego, third choice, Betty, fourth choice, Roberto, and fifth choice, Felix. If Lucinda wins more than 50% of all the first ranked votes, then she's the new mayor. However, if no candidate gets more than 50%, then the least popular candidate is eliminated. Sorry, Felix. The remaining second-ranked votes from Felix's voters are redistributed. So if a number of Felix's voters rank Betty and Diego, then those 2 candidates receive additional votes. The new totals are counted and the process repeats until one candidate earns more than 50% of the total votes. Congrats, Diego, you're the new mayor. Back in the real world, before it's time to vote, visit vote.
So, a little explanation that gives you an idea of the way in which ranked choice voting is utilized. From the voter's perspective, the most important thing is the ballot. And this is what your ballot is likely to look like. The candidates are going to be, and we know for sure that the basic format of the ballot is going to look like this because it's in the charter. So the candidates are listed on the left side and the choices are along the top. And this grid system has been shown through testing to be the clearest and easiest for voters to understand. So you are able then to fill in the ovals, just as you would for, our winner take all elections, but here you've got the choices. And what's important to remember, and there are big signs at the polling place that say this, and on the ballot that you fill out are instructions as well. And they caution you not to fill in more than one oval per column, right? So you only have one first choice, one second choice, one third choice, one fourth choice, one fifth choice. And that's important because if you vote for 2 candidates in any of the rankings, it's considered an overvote. So if you vote for two candidates as your first choice, your ballot's invalidated. If you vote for multiple candidates, say 4 candidates for your fourth choice, then your fourth choice is invalidated. The ballot itself will not be invalidated. But it's very important. Vote for only one candidate, fill in one oval per column. And it's strongly recommended that you only fill in one oval per row, which is you rank multiple candidates. So you have a first, second, third, fourth, and fifth choice, and they're all different candidates. And that is to give your ballot the most power. So as the little animation pointed out, the counting rounds are run only after all the ballots are counted, and you only get additional rounds if no candidate receives more than 50% of the first choice votes. Because of the state law requirements regarding how we count absentee ballots and when we count absentee ballots, the official winner won't be declared until all the votes are counted, including early election day affidavit and absentee votes. And as we know from last year's primary and general election, state law requires there to be some time after election day for the receipt of the absentee ballots to check that they're valid. There are overseas and military ballots that have to come in. And so there is a week or two until all of the ballots are together and counted. And then if there is no majority winner on that first round, then the rounds will be counted off. And after the winner is determined, the round by round vote totals will be released to the general public so the people will be able to see how the ballots transferred, because that's what happens with the rounds. Your first choice stays in place unless your first choice is eliminated. And as the animation showed, it is the lowest vote getters that are eliminated. If your first choice is eliminated, then it's your second choice that is redistributed as if it were a first choice until we get down to the final two. So what does this mean for election night? It means on election night, as always, the Board of Elections is going to announce unofficial election results based on the totals of in-person votes. So the total number of ballots that ranked a candidate as number one that were voted in person during either early voting or on election day. It may very well be possible to see who is the most likely majority winner. But often what we see is what we saw in the Council District 31 race, which is there are several candidates who have a very substantial vote totals, but nobody has a 50 as a more than majority, more than 50% winner. So the way in which the early vote, affidavit, and absentee ballots are counted as they always are. As I said, we wait until a grace period for the receipt of the absentee, overseas, and military ballots. Then once they are allowed, once we've determined they're eligible, they are counted and they are folded into the counting process. No rounds will be run on incomplete results. The board is going to wait until all the ballots are deemed, they have the universe of eligible ballots, and then they're going to start to run the rounds. And the process of running the rounds with a software tabulator is almost instantaneous. So using ranked choice voting in the normal circumstance does not speed up or slow down the absentee process. It's important to understand why voters would want to use their rankings. Because when we talk about it, we really want to help voters see the benefits of using the system. Using a ranked choice voting system, the ballot gives the voter more choice and more power. They've got their first choice, but they also have the backup choices so that their vote goes further. So it's also important for people to understand that even if your favorite candidate doesn't win, with ranked choice voting, you still have a say in who's elected because your second, third, perhaps even your fourth and fifth choices might come into play. And as I said earlier, you can vote your conscience without worrying that you're wasting your vote. You can really vote for your passionate first choice. And ranking a second, third, or additional choice never hurts your favorite candidate because your additional choices never come into play unless your first choice is eliminated, loses because they don't have enough first place votes. Talking about your community about ranked choice voting is, I think, what we're all interested in being able to do. Some people are not going to like ranked choice voting at first, and that's okay. This is a bit of a change, right? People are not used to thinking about ranking in the context of elections. When you think about it, we all actually rank intuitively. Take your family, take, a bunch of kids to the ice cream store, and if your favorite flavor is, if they've run out of your favorite flavor, the kids are going to be able to tell you their second, third, or fourth choices. Ask any child their favorite candies, they're going to give you a ranked list. We do ranking intuitively. We're just not used to thinking about it in this context. And right now, there's a good chance that various New Yorkers really don't know that ranked choice voting is happening. It is the actual researched fact that the vast majority of voters don't even focus in on an election until the weeks immediately before the election. For those of us who are much more politically active, that's uncomfortable, but it's the truth. And so a lot of what we are going to be focusing on is getting voters familiar with the ranked choice voting idea and really ramping up in the weeks right before the election. So when we talk about ranked choice voting, as I just did, you want to remind people that ranking is easy. We do it all the time. It's also important to share with folks that this is not a new system, right? As I pointed out, it's been used for decades internationally. It's been used for 15 years in San Francisco. We have entire states that are using ranked choice voting. And as a consequence, New York City has the benefit of the best practices from the cities across the nation and around the world, and that has indeed influenced the choices which the Charter Revision Commission made in setting up our ranked choice voting system. And when we talk about any voting system, and particularly ranked choice voting, we want to bring it back to family, friends, neighbors, and their values. The ability to have your voice heard, the ability to have more choices and more power. And those are values which all voters want. So you may hear some frequently asked questions. How many candidates do I rank? As I said earlier, you can rank up to 5 candidates, as many or as few as you'd like. Ranked choice voting is an optional system that the voter chooses to use and to use as extensively as they choose or not. Do I have to use all 5 rankings? No. As I've said, your vote will still count if you only rank 1 or a couple of candidates. Can I rank a candidate more than once? As you'll remember, when I was talking about the ballot, it does not help your favorite candidate to rank them more than once. When you think about how ranked choice voting works, when you think about transferring votes after your first choice candidate has been eliminated, if you've only voted for one candidate, you don't have any place for your vote to count, to transfer. And that's why your vote has been disempowered if you don't rank. Does it hurt my favorite candidate to have a second choice? No. As I said earlier, your second or third, fourth, or fifth choices will only be looked at if your first choice is eliminated. So back to the core message. Starting in 2021, New York City voters will have the option to rank their top 5 candidates in our local primary and special elections for mayor, comptroller, public advocate, borough president, and city council. If voters still want to vote for just one candidate, they can. And in explaining ranked choice voting, what we found is that people need to hear, and very much like hearing, that by ranking, voters don't need to worry about wasting their vote, accidentally helping elect someone that they don't support, splitting the vote, or having the person who wins being elected with significantly less than a majority. And what we see is cooperation among candidates. What we are seeing here in New York City, we are already seeing very different campaign styles where candidates are going out together. They are doing press events together. They are talking about rank us 1 and 2. And we've got candidates who are doing joint fundraisers. And I'm going to show you an example of how ranked choice voting can really change campaigning. This is an ad from 2018 for city council race in Oakland, California.
Hi, I'm Pam Harris.
I'm Nayeli Maxon.
I'm Shane Tao.
We're running for Oakland City Council District 4.
For the past 16 years, this seat has been held by dynamic women.
We are 3 well-qualified candidates for City Council.
We are mothers, public servants, and community leaders.
Pam has 20 years of nonprofit finance experience. She can manage any budget.
Nayeli has worked in the District 4 office. She knows the district's issues inside and out.
Shane has worked for the City Council for 5 years. She has the experience to get results.
We're asking for your support on November 6th.
This is a ranked choice election. Vote for us 1, 2, or 3.
You can learn more about us on our websites.
Vote for positive leadership.
Collaborative leadership.
Women's leadership.
Now, isn't that a different sort of ad? One that we haven't seen here in New York, but one that I hope we're going to start to see much more frequently as more and more candidates become comfortable and understand how to use ranked choice voting. The winner of that election was Sheng Tao, who is from the Hmong community and was among the first members of her community to be elected to any office across the country. So for more information, please go to our website, rankthevoteny.org, and you will find an extensive list of FAQs answering virtually every single question that we have come up in the trainings that we've been doing for the past year here in New York City. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have been able to talk to you about ranked choice voting. And I am going to stop my share and look forward to answer your questions.
Susan, thank you so much, both for putting the time in on behalf of New York voters to bring us RCV, as well as to put the time in to educate New York voters, New York City voters, about how to make ranked choice voting work for us. I think we'll take, we have a few questions in both the chat as well as the Q&A. And we've got about, 10 minutes or so till the top of the hour. So how about I share the questions with you and you field them. I think you'll be able to offer answers to all of them because they sound like common questions that you might come across. The first thing, you've already answered this with your final slide with the hashtag and the @ to follow Rank the Vote NYC on social media. But a few people want to know, is there a way to have a copy of the presentation? Or if they want to attend another training, how do they make sure that they know where to find you and Rank the Vote NYC?
Well, the website is the center of everything that we do. This set of slides is up on the Rank the Vote NYC website under resources for voters. There's a shorter 10-minute abbreviated presentation, and this is what we call our extended voter presentation. There are handouts in, I think we're up to 12 languages that are basic explainers about ranked choice voting. And we have versions of the shorter voter presentation that are recorded in different languages. So you'll find a lot of resources on the website starting, I think, by the end of next week. You'll find the New York City animation, which I'm having so much fun putting together. And you can always contact me at Common Cause or with the info at rankthevoteny.org. We've got a dynamic team of organizers who are doing forums and trainings every single day, and would be delighted to help set up trainings for any groups or organizations that would like to help get the word out. And I do want to say that I just put a link in the chat to a mock election tool that we use that allows you to vote in a ranked choice voting election. You're going to vote for which historic Black leader you would like to see on the $100 bill. And then you can experience voting with a ranked choice voting ballot. And then if you click on the next slide, which says see the results, it will take you through the rounds so that you can see how a ranked choice voting winner is calculated.
And in addition to having these models that we can participate in and see how ranked choice voting works, do you have any insights that you've learned from the special elections held in Queens so far about ranked choice voting? That's a question that we've received here in the Q&A.
Sure. Well, at least our initial takeaway is that New Yorkers react the way other voters do. They have the responses that we got from people coming out after voting was that the ballot was clear. Many of them told us that they had heard about ranked choice voting before they went in to vote. But the few who said, no, I really didn't know about it until I got here, told us that the signs and the instructions, which the Board of Elections has available and put up, so it's unavoidable to see in polling places, work, and that people get it.
That's excellent, because we all know the challenge. All of us who are taking time on a Thursday to join a webinar, I'm going to guess, are more committed to local politics in New York City, perhaps, than the average New Yorker. But we also know, because of that, the challenge of voting in New York City, both the obstacles and sort of the inertia that often work together. So it's reassuring to hear that there's some notes from the field that prove what works in terms of educating the voters as they go to vote.
Brett, what's unusual is because of ranked choice voting, the voters in the special elections are actually getting much more communications than they normally would. All voters in each of the special elections are getting a mailing about ranked choice voting from the Campaign Finance Board. They're getting a mailing from the Board of Elections that has instructions about ranked choice voting, as well as telling them where and when to vote. And Rank the Vote NYC has also sent out mailings to the triple primes in each of the special districts. And I know that the candidates also have been educating voters and have mailings about ranked choice voting. So there's a lot of education that's going on, and I think we're going to keep that high level of explanation and information all the way into June.
And Susan, just for point of clarification, a triple prime, what's that?
Sorry. So that is a high propensity voter, a voter who has voted in 3 of the last elections.
I see. So maybe probably a few people on this Zoom tonight who are learning about ranked choice voting to be sure that they're well prepared to vote in the primaries. So 2 related questions have come in about just how far ranked choice voting will be going. Let me pull the Q&A up. There was a question from Samantha Adler, and I believe a question in the chat also. Will there be ranked choice voting for state elections? Will there be that we can look forward to in the future? And the related question was, why is ranked choice voting happening only in New York City in the 5 boroughs and not across the state?
So first, it's happening in New York City because the New York City voters approved it for New York City elections. The Charter Revision Commission put it on the ballot, and the city can only control its own elections. There's no question that I think there's definite interest in having ranked choice voting for state elections. And that is something that we're going to be working on once we've gotten through the June primary, and we expect demonstrated how well ranked choice voting has worked here in New York City and how workable it would be for the entire state.
And a related question from Sunshine Mitchell. So when we go to vote in June, since there's ranked choice voting only for the municipal elections happening in the 5 boroughs, but there are campaigns and elections happening for other offices, what will the ballot look like that in that case?
The ballot will be double-sided. One side will be a ranked choice voting side. It will have its own set of instructions and an illustration of how to properly and how not to fill out the ballot. And on the flip side, there will be the state elections, which are the district attorney, the judicial candidates, any judicial conventions, and they will just be the ballot where you choose one.
Will there be a big stamp at the top of that in bold on the state election side for district attorney and judicial saying just choose one, don't rank?
That's correct. That's correct. Okay. And I expect extensive signage. The Board of Elections has been doing a much better job with its graphics and its explanations. If you remember the booklet that we got last fall was actually attractive and informative. And that was from the Board of Elections. So we've been working with them. They've been working with experts on messaging and ranked choice voting to be sure that the information that they're sending to voters and the way they're explaining ranked choice voting at polling places and through poll workers and handouts is as accurate and clear as possible.
And so a related question from Ellen Lentz, who asked, can we see a sample ballot? When do you think, in your experience, or do you know, based on perhaps policy, when there would be sample ballots from the BOE that voters could familiarize themselves with for June?
Right. So for June, I would expect that once they have finalized who is on the ballot, relatively soon thereafter, you're able to access a sample ballot online by going in, putting in your information. And if you'll recall, on the BOE website, there's a locator, and you put in your address and it tells you where you would be voting for early voting and for election day. And it also gives you the option to look at a sample ballot.
Okay, so Ellen, keep an eye out for that as we get closer to June. And this is a bigger question. There's a world beyond New York City, it turns out, or I hear tell that there is. And Zachary had a question. Susan, you talk a lot about, and it's often spoken about, RCV on the campaign side. The goal is to create a bit more collegiality amongst the campaigns. In places where they have had ranked choice voting longer than we've had in the city, do you see an effect on the government side, on the legislating side?
Yes, actually, the electeds that we have talked to from Oakland and from Minneapolis, they're the ones I've spoken to directly, have said that because ranked choice voting requires that the candidates get out of their core set of supporters and talk to as many voters in as many different communities within their district as they can, that they felt that they had a better handle on the community needs, and that they felt they had a connection and had been able to present their issues in a way that gave them the confidence that once they were elected, they had a mandate from the voters to follow through on the promises they had made.
I see.
They also said that therefore they had stronger backing within their districts, that they came in as a coalition candidate, and that gives them more confidence and more ability to advocate on the issues.
That's the most heartening sales point for ranked choice voting that I've heard as a person at Eleanor's Legacy and the Action Fund who spends my time thinking about how to elect women in order to affect change that we see coming out of Albany and the city and all the places of power at the state and local level. The ability for ranked choice voting to affect that, to make it easier and give them more tools when they get there is appealing to me on a professional front. Credit where credit's due. If the BOE is improving their graphics and design, then Susan, I want you to know there have been more than a few comments that this was an excellent and clear presentation. I'm going to answer one question from Janice Robinson, who is asking, why is the ballot not being more talked about now? Why are we not hearing more about this? And it's because the ballot is not yet set. Petitioning begins at the end of this week. Petitioning begins soon for candidates to get on the ballot for the July ballot. So that's one reason why there isn't a sample yet to look at. And there are trainings that are happening all the time, as Susan said, provided by Rank the Vote New York, from community groups across the city, from elected officials across the city. I even saw Old Man Ebro from Hot 97. You might want to add him to your call list, Susan. On Twitter today, he said, "What is ranked choice voting and why are we doing it in New York City?" So the word is getting out there, but we do have 4 months to go. One final question, Susan, is people want to know how they can get involved and help be a volunteer, help carry the word, help educate their neighbors and their communities.
That would be great. There is a volunteer sign up on the Rank the Vote NYC website. We are preparing what would have been a house party kit pre-COVID, but it's basically the ability to do a virtual ranked choice voting party. So if you go to the link that I had put up previously and that I'm putting up again, and you see the sample ballot, the mock election tool, we can make that tool available to you. You can have a competition on favorite cheeses, favorite craft beers, wine tastings, anything that you think your friends and acquaintances and family would be interested in. You can have a party, explain about ranked choice voting, run your own mock election, and we'll provide you with the information that you need to do that. And we would love to have you do that.
Susan, when we're all able to gather again in the near future, I hope, the off the top of the head examples you gave for hotly debated topics in your household of cheeses, wines, and craft beers, please count me on the guest list, and I will absolutely attend and offer and rank my choices in those categories. I am going to sign off now because we're coming up on the 8 o'clock hour. We are recording this. We will be sharing it on our YouTube page at Eleanor's Legacy and the Eleanor's Legacy Action Fund. We'll be following up. We've been dropping links in the chat all along, as well as Susan has, and we'll follow up as well to make sure you all have the contact information you need to follow Rank the Vote NYC so you can stay involved and become an ambassador for ranked choice voting in your community. I want to thank Susan. I want to thank Stacy and Gloria from LC Interpreting Services. I want to thank Disability Rights New York, our friends at the United Federation of Teachers, and once again, thank you and good luck to all the teachers and support staff as we continue to go back to schools. Thank you to the Women of Color for Progress and to the Black Women's Political Club. It takes a village, and I'm glad we all could come together this evening. Happy Purim to all who celebrate. And happy voting to all of us. Susan, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.